Warhammer with Sheeb here, guys, bringing you a battle report against none other than my best friend, Codex Dan. He is bringing, of course, his Orcs and Goblins, the only fantasy army he owns at the moment. And I am so loving my Skaven that I decided to face him in a 2,500 point matchup. Just a friendly game. And Dan told me before this game, when we haven't had a game in months, he hasn't been over to my house in months. He's been climbing mountains and enjoying Alberta sunshine while it still lasts. So to be gathered up in my gloomy basement was not in the plans for the past few months. But we're back. You know, it's October now, and it's starting to get cold. It's probably going to snow here. We have Halloween trick-or-treaters. We gotta go start playing some fantasy. So here we go, in our basement, 2,500 points, Orcs and Goblins versus Skaven. He's bringing a really fluffy list. His list, he told me he's not bringing any of the usual Orc and Goblin filth, and I titled my list Skaven Filth. So 2,500 points, I think I made a pretty rock-solid Skaven list. But this game, by no means is it competitive nor one-sided, as always with my games against Codex Dan. They go down to the last man, and this one is no exception. So stay tuned. By no means is this competitive, but it's a lot of fun. You'll like this one. So on my left flank, we decided to rock up Dawn Attack, and I do not want to place my main combat block of Storm Vermin. 50 Storm Vermin, Screaming Bell, got the Gracier in there, 51 Slaves on my left flank. So you have a Doom Wheel in the middle, along with another slave block of 51 Slaves. Across from me, Dan also did not want to have his Orc boys here, as well as his Chariot and Arachnarok on his far right flank. But hey-ho, that's life. He also is rocking a troll, which you can't see behind this forest, and another troll because behind this forest here. But you can see his giant, his unit of 50 Night Goblins with the wizard who pops in that unit. BSB I don't think has been placed yet, but it actually ends up going inside the Savage Orcs, I believe. This, he's proxying Arrow Boys for Savage Orc Big Guns. He doesn't have the models just yet, but he has his Warlord on a Warboar with the giant spear. However, he is rocking the Armor of Gork this time around. He's got 5 Wolf Riders, and then he's got another horde of 50 Night Goblins and a single Troll. I already talked about these slaves, Rat Dart, Warp Lightning Cannon, and then I didn't grab the base on my Hell Pit, but here he is, and we have another Doom Wheel rounding out my right flank. So let's get down to it. I deployed first. He manages to steal first turn because I roll a 1. Not too good. You can see the spells that I rolled were Skitter Leap. Figured it might be nice to whip out my Assassin, who is in one of the groups with the Storm Vermin, just for some extra killy punch. Never really gets used. Cloud of Corruption, Plague, and the Curse of the Horn Rat, the dreaded 13th spell. Of course, Warp Lightning is known by one of my engineers who was in the in this bunker with my BSB, and another engineer who has the Skaven Brew. Oh, excuse me, my other engineer I put in this slave block, because once they're in the unit of the bell, it's unbreakable, they cannot leave. So here we go. Just look at Dan's left flank here. So I tried to take some stylized pictures. He actually puts his BSB inside this unit, figuring most of his army's over here, and most of his army that is needing leadership actually needs to be over here. So he manages to roll up in there, and conveniently placed him in that unit. And here's just a look at my Storm Vermin that I'm having painted up. Spending hours and hours of time, but well worth it. I love the look of these guys so far. So his Vanguards bring him up here. I have no Vanguards. He wins first turn, and he shimmies everything up and over. These guys occupy the hill. Everything moves up slightly, as you see there. And then he moves his dogs over here to sort of redirect into his Savage Orc Big Guns, whatever comes in. He's assuming it's probably going to be the Rat Dart. He manages to put not a wound on my Doom Wheel, but to lower his movement by D6, which was a 1. So I'm okay. So moving that to only 2d6 is okay, and lowering my initiative. So that was the only spell he got off, aside from Headbutt, or Edbutt, as the Orcs and Goblins say. And they snipe out my Wizard, who has the Doom Rocket and the Condenser. So, pow! First turn, before I even get to shoot it, there goes my guy. And they manage to kill a single Giant Rat. On my turn, I do just that, charge my Giant Rats into these Wolves, because I actually think I have a chance. And then I march up my bell because I am really bold. I have 1 warpstone token, that's not any wounds. And then my slaves I hang back with because I'm a little leery. If that chariot goes in, it could burst through those slaves. Maybe not first round, but it could eventually. Hell Pit also makes an insane charge in that direction and makes it into combat. Doomwheel moves up there like that, and this Doomwheel moves up behind this forest. Those goblins are right on the other side of this forest. I think they stuck their toe in, and I think it's a blood forest. No one shoots any magic in or out of that forest, so it's okay. Nothing really happens. And then look at this amazing roll. This was a roll for the Curse of the Horned Rat, which I get off, not irresistibly. I make it, and then I roll something like 19 of those orc boys just die. Boom. They all turn to clan rats. And in the magic backlash, sorry, I did irresistible force. I did manage to lose 5 storm vermin. Fair trade, I think. And my warp lightning cannon puts 6 wounds on the Arachnarok. So he's got 2 left. Big spiders go down. In combat, I take out 3 wolves. The Hell Pit decides to feed and just munch on the wolf riders. I'm okay with that. And then just look at the board. We have our lovely autumn terrain. I dipped my foot into the forest when I marched and then rang the bell and moved up d6. And it is a fungus forest. So 2 of my storm vermin will have poison attacks. And there we have a look at the board after combat here and after lightning zaps. Which I believe the closest unit was my slaves, and zap them. Zap those goblins, which was pretty good. And Codex Dan's turn, he decides to do a super flank charge with this Doomwheel, who's just too good of an opportunity to not charge, so they charge there. Night Goblins also declare a charge against this Doomwheel. I don't think he realized that the majority of his models were in my flank. We measured it, and we said, yeah, you're going to be in my flank, which would line him up right into the forest. Unfortunate. And then he does an everything charge. Chariot, Orc Boys, Troll. Tempted the Giant, but I'm not that long wide across, so he couldn't have made it in. His Troll, of course, does an attempt, but fails stupidity. And there we have a look at the Goblins, of course, easily making it. The Troll makes it. Excuse me, he didn't fail stupidity. His General makes way, and then we have here the the Savage Orc Big Guns going into the Doomwheel. He had to close the door like this because of his unit and my unit. He had to stay 1 inch apart, and wheeling was going to be difficult for him. So we only managed to get that, but that's going to be more than enough. And of course, Dan calls the Wog. And yep, adding 1 +1 to their combat res will certainly help, especially when he's combo charging with everything. So here's a look at what's going into the bell, the unbreakable unit of storm vermin. Giant manages to march up around the side, as well does the Troll for a nice flank charge next time when they inevitably stick around, which is, yep, what's going to happen. In combat, I believe we attack first, and we put the hurt on them. These goblins lose combat, failing all their rolls, really, only managing to put, I think, an attempted wound on that Doomwheel. They break, and I run them down quite easily with 3d6 fleeing and pursuing. You don't want to lose combat to a Doomwheel. It'll catch you and run you down every time. Killed the Wolf Riders to a man, but was unable to kill the Troll because I was silly and forgot to allocate my attacks onto the Troll. So, lesson learned. But it's just a friendly game anyway. This is just hilariousness. We have the Savage Orcs going into this Doomwheel, and of course they pop it. Being frenzied, they overrun. They bring them over there like so. In his magic phase, he manages to reduce my initiative down to 1, and he puts the hurt on. I actually rolled for Skaven Brew at the beginning of the combat phase. It was gone bad, and so D6 clan rats were poisoned, and it was, of course, 5 or 6, as well as all the impact hits and the stomps that he got after combat. Yeah, I lose a lot of storm vermin there, more than I thought. So there we go. The Arachnarok shimmied over here to hide away from that lightning cannon. However, the lightning cannon can definitely still see it. 40 inches range in the middle of the table is phenomenal. Chariot's got a couple wounds on him, and there's only a few orc boys left, and the troll's got 2 wounds on him. There we go. In my turn in combat, we did manage to kill the troll. So we're going to go to my turn now. I swapped the Doom Wheel with this better looking one because I think it looks better, and I painted it, so I may be a little biased. But there we go. In my combat phase, I do a charge with the giant rats. I probably could have charged with the slaves. It actually looked up when we did the line of sight that they weren't in their arc of line of sight, but actually looking at this now, I think they definitely were. But oh well, they didn't charge. The Doom Wheel does his random movement way over here. And the Hell Pit, what was his random movement? Oh, excuse me, he's still stuck in combat with the troll. So that's why that picture looks like that. Okay, fair enough. And the slaves go into the chariot there too. I figured that he could use some combat res, and we charge him in there. Why not? I managed to get Plague, but no, it is dispelled with his Dispel Scroll. Now, knowing Dan and knowing me, and being such funny, friendly games as we tend to have, doing things that are completely hilarious, probably should have, from a competitive standpoint, held off on the Dispel Scroll, because Plague is not going to be that bad, especially in combat. It's probably going to hurt me more than it hurts him. However, he didn't like the sound of it when I was reading it out to him, and I think he forgot how devastating the Curse of the Horned Rat, the dreaded 13th spell, could be to his guys, since he has mostly infantry models and no saves of any kind. So I do pop my assassin, and then funny things ensue. 10 inches from the back of this giant's base, I declare my Warp Lightning Cannon shot. It manages to go 10, and then 6, and then 10 inches, and it manages to shoot into this combat, which promptly kills my unit champion. Puts a wound on the engineer who failed. Engineer makes his lookout, sir, but the assassin fails his lookout, sir. Gets punked with D6 wounds from a strength 8 shot, and goes down before I could even use him or pop his potion of strength, as well as 4 storm vermin. So that was awesome. Tried to kill the giant, ended up killing my super killy assassin, who was going to kill the giant as soon as he charged in combat next turn. Oh well. We do manage to put a wound or 2 on the giant, 3 wounds because the lightning cannon did go through his base, so it was not a total loss. And there we have a look at the board. I finally kill off that troll in my combat phase, and these slaves who I attempted to charge, I think they even attempted to charge these guys, because I didn't think these were in line of sight, and they only stumble forward 2 inches. After combat, I win combat, kill the chariot, kill the last of the orcs and the troll, and reform to face like that. Figured a frontal charge is good, a good way to take it. Maybe a Ragnarok in the flank, I could deal with that. And we're going off to Codex Dan's turn 2 or 3. Again, super combo charge, troll, giant, savage orc, biggins, all into the bell. Bring it on! So they all make it, and they all pile in there, and his general makes way. Here we have an epic shot of my paint job of my slaves, and they're going to go chase down those night goblins. And the Ragnarok, of course, goes into the flank. I don't know what I was thinking, or how, maybe I had too much confidence inside my storm vermin, but I forgot. You know, my BSB, sure, you got a halberd, and the assassin, yeah, you could put a hurt on, but he's dead. I don't have that many storm vermin left, and the rat ogre on the bell is only weapon skill 3 and isn't really hitting and wounding that many targets in combat, so this could pose a bit of a problem for me. My Gracier with the Fencer Blades sure stays alive, but I'm getting charged twice. Super combo charge 2 turns in a row. And there is the proof is in the pudding. There is all the dead storm vermin. Takes me down to, I think, just 5 or 6 storm vermin left, plus my BSB, engineer, and the Gracier with the bell. Fitting. I am starting to get worried. I do remember to call in my 2 units of scouting gutter runners, thinking I can throw poison slings at this combat, but no, they're still in combat, and I can't shoot into combat. I can bend a lot of Warhammer rules, but I can't bend this one. So they're going to get a nice flank and rear charge next turn, if there is going to be a next turn, if they're even there. Thank goodness the Bells unit is unbreakable. At this point, it cannot no longer move. So here we have a look at the Doom Wheel. Finally goes into the Night Goblins. I just wanted to see how fast I could break this unit of Night Goblins. The Doom Wheel over on the right did so well. And then I moved my Hell Pit up only, I think it was like 3-4 inches. So it's there like that. Next turn, Hell Pit, you'll get a good rear charge. So combat goes quite well. I attempt Curse of the Horned Rat. He manages to dispel it. I then have 1 die left for my Warpstone token to Skitter Leap, and I roll a 1. So this is equally bad because a 1 or 2 fails on a 1 dies, but it was my Warpstone token. I rolled a 1, so I actually take a wound. Oh, great stuff. I love Skaven. They are so fun. This whole game, now at this point, we're just having fun because everything is in combat. Can we throw possibly more things into combat? Oh yeah, next turn, 2 slave blocks and a Hell Pit are probably going to go in. And good timing too, because he manages to kill everything except for the Bell, the BSB, and my Engineer, which leaves the 1 troll on the left with 2 wounds out of combat due to everyone reforming and pushing forward to close gaps. BSB does go down, and the Engineer also bites it as well. I am left with my Gracier, who has 2 wounds on the Bell, and a Rat Ogre. Thank goodness for being unbreakable, but a lot of good it's doing me here. I need my General to kill stuff, and this Gracier General isn't very killy. So he marches his troll that it does have some wounds up into chaff up my Hell Pit Abomination. I'm not too worried about it, and I think this is a true telltale sign of me becoming a better wargamer, because I plan on charging the slaves in here, and then he's thinking he can overrun me into this direction and miss combat once I kill him. However, because the slave block is going to be wide, I can only go so far forward, and then the troll will have to close the door, and I can go into combat against the giant. So I am feeling myself pretty clever. These Night Goblins actually managed to put 3 wounds onto this Doom Wheel, which is fan-freaking-tastic for them. Sure, they get zapped every turn that I can shoot lightning, and I do a grind attack plus my Pathetic Engineer 2d6 attacks, but they're steadfast, and there's a lot of them. So here we go. There's a look at the table there. There's a wound on my Gracier from the miscast. Everything is going in on my turn. We got both units of Gutter Runners into the Arachnarok, both slave blocks into this Savage Orc Big Gun unit with his General and a Troll and a Giant with the Bell. The only thing I wish I would have remembered is to ring the bell more often. The turn before that, I did remember, and I rolled the amazing number of 13, which every one of my Storm Vermin unit was able to kill the unit, and to put all their attacks, but to no avail. I mean, when you only have half a dozen left, that's not the greatest thing to get. But it was still fun nonetheless, just how they ignore so many rules of Warhammer. So I attempt Curse of the Horned Rat again. This time it goes through, and since I can shoot it into combat, wabam! I think that was 14 Savage Orc big guns. Sure, you have the lucky shrunken head, but it don't matter. You transformed into clan rats just the same. So there we have a look at the devastation. This combat is totally my-sided. At this point, Dan said, "Good game, you've won." There's no way that he has any chance now. However, I wanted this to be a fun game. And so, to make it a fun game, I want to cast an additional spell. Plague. Possibly the worst spell to cast, since everything of mine is in combat, and it could bounce and keep coming back and killing me. And since it's a toughness test on an army that is plagued with strength 3 toughness, toughness 3, this is the most terrible idea. However, I decided to get it off, and it goes off, and Dan lets me. He kills, I think, maybe 1 or 2 wounds. But the amount of wounds I cause on my slave blocks alone are devastating. So here we go. Boom! Plague wipes out half of each unit, as it statistically should, losing 3 gunner runners over here and 4 gunner runners over here. And now this combat, which was totally one-sided, has all of a sudden swung back into the favor of maybe Codex Dan can actually pull this off. That was awesome. We decided to end the spell. No more. I did not want this to go on anymore, so it ended. I killed the troll, overrun into the back of the giant, and I punked the giant. In combat, they allocate all their attacks onto the Screaming Bell, which also doesn't have a very high weapon skill, so it's easily hit. High toughness, but they managed to bring it down, and they managed to solo out my Gracier. And I didn't get a chance to use my Scalm, but he died. With 2 wounds left, they did 3, and he's gone. So now this combat's looking pretty small. The Giant's gone, the Troll's gone. All we got is his Savage Orc Wizard, his Black Orc BSB, and he has his Super Killy Warlord. He's down to characters. I have Slaves, and a Hell Pit, a Doom Wheel, and he's got some Night Goblins. And these 2 Gunner Runners are actually still alive. So here we go. Just look at all the trays. They're just empty trays at this point. Everything's been thrown in. All the slaves, since they lose combat, they all panic. Yep, they all flee and explode. And when they explode, they actually do enough damage to put wounds on the Black Orc BSB and the General, and on my Hell Pit, which we thought was just hilarious. It's just Skaven hilarity is much appreciated by me and Codex Dan. So they reformed a face. My Hell Pit remains right there. I think we had a super lucky roll, and he manages to stick around in combat. And then we have Doom Wheel still working away. He's got 1 wound left. These Night Goblins are going to make short work of him, and the Doom Wheel falls over. Finally meets his demise. So that was on Codex Dan's turn. Now we're going to my turn, where I do charge in my final remaining Gutter Runners. This is bottom of turn 5. His Orc Warlord has 1 wound on him. Coming in with some poison attacks. He also has poison attacks, and the Hell Pit's got poison attacks. We're going all at it, and we managed to kill him. Because the Gunner Runners have such high initiative, and so does the Hell Pit. Woo! We managed to kill him before he actually attacked. So we've reformed like that. And we've only got 1 more wound left on the Hell Pit. Dan was super choked that he couldn't manage to kill this Hell Pit. But he still has his turn 6, and after his reform, he's going to charge down my Hell Pit. And they make it, and they put a wound on him. So good on him. And how did that guy die? Oh, he must have died from the General, actually. They probably went simultaneous, and the Hell Pit dies, and out comes Rat Swarms. I do have Rat Swarms, but they were upstairs, and we're in the basement. So he manages to do a charge into my Gutter Runners. I countercharge on my turn with the Rat Swarms that emerge. He is in the forest. It is not the Fungus Forest. I put a load of attacks on him, and all I really have left is my Warp Lightning Cannon. Oh, excuse me, let me go back. And that's the end of the game. He manages to kill the Gutter Runners, but the Rat Swarms managed to overrun. He rolled a 9, and my Rat Swarms rolled a 10. Had his unit fled away from my Rat Swarms, Codex Dan would have won. Because he failed his steadfast roll and his leadership test and his getting away distance, solidified me the victory, because this Night Goblin unit was 200 something plus points, and all that I have on the table is a 90-point Warp Lightning Cannon. So super close game, we went right down to the wire. Lessons learned: I will not do this in Onslaught, the upcoming Alberta Edmonton tournament in October. I will not cast Plague into combat. In fact, I am thinking about never taking that spell and always defaulting to the dreaded 13th and being a 6 dice monkey. There you go. There's the battle report. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and sharing it. I appreciate all the support. Have a great day, guys.